In our first story, police have clashed with the hashtag Fix the Country protesters. The protesters alleged they were being prevented from entering the court premises. The judge hearing the matter had to put the case on hold for the lawyers to go down and intervene. Now, the hashtag Fix the Country protesters have been sued by the Ghana Police Service, seeking to stop them from embarking on a street protest citing COVID-19 restrictions. We hear from court correspondent Joseph Akable in a bit. But first, let's listen to a member of the group, Ernesto Yeboah, who spoke earlier on Prime Morning.
There's so much suffocation in the system, so much injustice that needs to be spoken about. Well, Mr. Akufo-Addo himself has submitted himself to this level of tyranny that the country is facing. He wouldn't. He's a man of protest. He would have been in the streets demanding that the rights of all citizens are asserted. So what is it that they want to reduce all of us to? And in fact, if you interpret the ruling, the earlier ruling of the court, that imposed the injunction. Well, lawyers have a very nice way of even explaining things that doesn't make sense. But in essence, what the court is simply saying is that until President Akufo-Addo decides that Ghanaians can demonstrate against him, nobody can. So who in his right senses would allow you to demonstrate against them? So this effectively sets aside our right under the 1992 Constitution to demonstrate.
Is this President Akufo-Addo who is saying that you can't demonstrate against him, or this is simply the police and the courts of law which are acting in accordance to what the law allows them to do?
And what does the law allow them to do? There is a COVID restriction, act that deposits all powers in the hands of the president. That says that until the president lifts the ban on public gathering, which does not include gatherings at Sir John's funerals, which does not include gatherings at their party rallies during elections and all of that, but only comes in force when young people want to come together and express their grievances. So even the application of the rules actually should tell you something. And this is where we are.
Right, you're still live on JoyNews desk. We will be connecting with Joseph Akable later in the bulletin to get the latest on that reported clash between the protesters and the police. But in the meantime, Minority in Parliament says it will summon the Energy Minister Matthew Opoku-Pempeh to the House over what they say is the refusal of PDS to release monies belonging to the Electricity Company of Ghana. At the Appointments Committee sitting Thursday, Deputy Energy Minister Designate William Orekwedu stated that efforts are underway to assist the ECG to recover about 200 million cedis from the power distribution company, allegedly refused to pay following the botched PDS ECG deal. Boko Central MP and a member of the Appointments Committee, Mahama Ayariga, tells parliamentary correspondent Joseph Okpoku-Gakpo that he is not satisfied with the responses so far and hints of his intention to give the issue a further push.
Orekwedu on the 2 million PDS ECG.
I was very dissatisfied. I felt very bad about it. That first he admitted that he had requested for the information, that he was given 2 different sets of information by the 2 different parties involved, but he declined to make either of the information available to the committee. And I felt very gagged. As I tried to probe further into such an important matter involving what I believe is close to $200 million, which is public money. And so I really find it unfortunate. But the matter will not end there, because I'm going to follow up on this issue. In the debate on his report, I will insist because I actually did indicate to the chairman of the committee that I will require that he provides that information since he says he has it. And then secondly, we will also request of the minister responsible for the sector to come to Parliament and give us exact details of the amounts involved, which account. I'm told, I don't want to mention the name of the bank, but I know the bank where it has been kept, what has happened to the interest on the money.
What's happening to the interest on the money?
That's the issue. That's the issue. That's the issue. I'm sure when we get to know the details of the account, I'm sure we'll also get to know if the account has been accruing interest and what has been happening to that interest.
Is it something that the Committee on Mines and Energy should probably express?
I don't care whether Committee on Mines and Energy or Finance, but I will take it up. If the committees don't take it up, I'll take it up.
As you would push for the House itself?
I will push for the House to demand answers, not necessarily a petition, a question to the sector minister to resolve the issue.
How bad is this for ECG and the energy sector? They've been operating all this while without the money.
But then you have been hearing about the energy sector debt. So if there's a debt, and then within the sector, there's money belonging to the institutions who own who owe. If they are giving their money, they'll be able to pay their debts.
We've been joined via Zoom by Executive Director of the Kumasi Institute of Technology and Environment, Kite Ishmael Ijekumhene, to discuss this further. Thanks for joining us. Are the calls of the minority displaced?
Sorry, Daniel, can you please repeat your question?
I'm asking if the calls of the minority for the recovery of the funds displaced.
No. I mean, Daniel, it's been how many years now? The deal was terminated in October 2019. It's well over a year now. So I was actually expecting that this issue would have been resolved long before now, because, the termination was so abrupt that there wasn't any proper handing over from PDS back to ECG. And there were obviously going to be outstanding issues. There ought to have been an audit by now to have really brought to the fore the balances. I mean, this money that we're talking about were monies that were lodged in an account for which it was only PDS who were signatories. Okay, so obviously before one could access that money, there has to be change of signatories and stuff like that. It shouldn't take us more than a year to be able to reconcile this, except that, to say that they are trying to help ECG to recover the money, I'm not too sure why it should be difficult for this reconciliation to be done. Because, Daniel, you know what? Obviously, PDS would want to lay some claim on some of the money, because look, the PDS story, I am very convinced that we haven't seen the back of it yet, because definitely PDS guys who want to lay some claim to some investment they probably would have made, some expenses they may have incurred, but this ought to have been resolved by now. You present your expenditure, whatever you incurred during the period, and those balances ought to have been thrashed out by now. So I definitely think that I don't think it's out of place. Somebody ought to have told us this by now. That question will have to be answered. We need to know. You can't hold money that belongs to. If money belongs to ECG, it belongs to the state. So I think it's on point for anybody to want to know what exactly is the state of affairs.
Would you say that it's unjustifiable, the fact that we have waited for a year and we've still not seen a reconciliation that will see taxpayers' money paid back into the national kitty?
Unless I know exactly what has led to this long delay, I wouldn't even talk about whether it's justifiable or not. You see, Daniel, there was a deal that went bad, okay? So unless, of course, they're telling me that PDS don't have any locals, they don't have any basis for keeping that money, I don't understand why we wouldn't have resolved the issue. Obviously, there must be some thorny issue that needs to be addressed, because they were asked to, they didn't hijack ECG. ECG was handed over to them, and then they were reordered to hand it back to ECG. So for us to hear that there is some almost like discussions and negotiations to get the money suggests that the PDS guys probably have a basis for keeping that money. But that shouldn't take us more than a year. If there's a dispute, the matter should be taken to court and let the matter be resolved. But nobody can keep money that belongs to ECG for this long. And I think it's the right time for these questions to be answered. And once we know the full facts as to why they've kept the money for that long, as to whether even that amount is still in that account, and all of those issues will have to be resolved. And this is the time that somebody needs to provide those answers.
Okay. So help us. What does this mean for the energy sector in particular, particularly when it comes to ECG's efficiency?
Okay, so they are shocked by that. If that money belongs to them and nobody else can lay claim to that, then basically they've been denied of money that they could have used to do other things. I mean, 200 million, sorry, it's raining here, so if you are getting a feedback, then that's the problem. But basically they will need that money to run the company. And I know ECG is not in very good, their finances are not too strong, but definitely it's going to affect the operations, because they could have used that money to probably buy some meters or whatever they need. They would need money to run the business. So obviously, if not for anything, they will need money to pay for the power they are buying from the IPPs and the power utility, generation utilities. So it'll have an impact on their operations for sure.
So given the fact that you've said that there is a delay that needs to be explained and that the shortfall would have an impact on ECG's activities, what then do you expect to hear? Or what then do you expect the Energy Ministry to tell us when he goes to Parliament?
Okay, so let me just explain this once again. I mean, the extent of the impact I'm unable to tell, but take multimedia, for example. If somebody is keeping 200 million cedis of your money, at the very least, if the money didn't have anything to do, you obviously will be looking at getting some interest on that money. So definitely it's going to have an impact on the bottom line of the company. But back to your question, we expect that we need to hear everything about what has gone on over the past 18 months or so. Why is it that it should take us more than 18 months to resolve? Because you see, the obvious thing was for some audit to have been done post the PDS audit, so that everybody knows where things stand. So I expect that the minister, when he goes back to Parliament, will be able to provide information on this and explain why this thing has taken us this long, and if indeed they've kept monies belonging to the state. I mean, ECG is UNI, it was owned by UNI. We expect that we need to be told what the money has been doing sitting in that account, if it's still sitting in the account, and why it should just be the money being paid, but not the money with some interest. Those are the things that I expect the minister to explain. And I think that is the Minister of Finance will also have some explanation to provide as far as this PDS thing is concerned.
Mr. Jacomini, finally, you mentioned earlier that it is your suspicion that the PDS matter has not been fully resolved and that we have not seen the end of this issue. Would it be advisable for perhaps a higher authority like the presidency to commission a probe into this, or maybe Parliament to have an official probe into this entire PDS arrangement, to not only resolve issues like this, but to also hold persons responsible if need be?
Well, I wouldn't preempt that, but what I know is that and the Minister of Information told us not quite long ago that they've heard that the PDS guys are getting ready to go to court. I mean, the Minister of Finance, Minister of Information said that. And the reason why I'm saying this is that I think they would want to say that the termination was unjustifiable, it was illegal, and they would want to probably get something back. But that's where it's going to take us to everybody getting to the bottom of the matter. As far as the government is concerned, they think that they know why the deal had to be terminated, and they've told us that. So basically, I don't think they will be willing or they'll be interested in doing that, because they're saying that there was illegality or fraud perpetrated by the PDS guys that necessitated a termination. So I'm not too sure whether they will have the appetite for another investigation when they think they know what led to the cancellation of the deal. But what we need to establish is, for example, PDS will have to account for that 6-month period that they were in charge. And then that will take us to why some monies are being held up in a certain account that they only are signatories to. So obviously, some more explanation will have to be given now that the issue has been brought to the fore. But I expect the PDS reaction to come when they are being forced to release monies and all of that, because I think there will be a pushback from PDS, or they would want to also tell us why they are keeping the money, because that will have to be explained. Otherwise, it really doesn't make sense why money that they themselves know that belongs to the company should be kept somewhere and nobody will be able to access it.
Thank you very much for joining us, Ishmael Ejekumhini. He is Executive Director for the Kumasi Institute of Technology and the Environment. The body of another miner has been discovered and retrieved from a tunnel at the Gbani mine in the Talensi district of the Upper East region. This brings the death toll from the accident to 10. The miners were trapped underground after water rushed into their mining pit following a downpour Monday night. They died as a result of drowning. 9 bodies were recovered on Wednesday dawn by rescuers and released by police to the families for burial, while 3 others were unaccounted for. 1 of the 3 has now been found. Correspondent Albert Sori joins us with further details. Albert, what more do we know about this?
Yes, so the 9 miners were found at dawn yesterday, and 3 others were still unaccounted for, based on information that police and the rescue team gathered from those who were around the mine at the time the other miners went in. So the search continued throughout yesterday in attempts to find these other 3 that could not be found. At 8:30 last night, they found 1 more body. And from what the police are telling us, it is a body of a 28-year-old miner whose name is being withheld for now because the body has just been given to the family for burial. The other 2, they are still looking for, for their bodies in the tunnels. Hopefully, in the course of the day, they'll be able to account for these bodies as well.
Tell us about Gbani once again. Are persons still engaged in illegal mining there so soon after this incident?
For now, they have asked all the miners not to go in. In this particular instance, what the regional minister tells us is that the mine where this accident occurred is a licensed concession for small-scale mining. So the implication is that these people were not doing illegal mining. But I mean, Gbani is also a mining area where some people, engage in mining that is not exactly regulated. From time to time, authorities try to clamp down on some of them. For this particular case, because of the occurrence of the accident, they've stopped everyone around this area from going underground for any mining activity. In fact, what we know is that those who are allowed to go underground are part of the search team that are looking for the bodies. The regional minister has set up a committee that is investigating this incident to ensure that they come up with recommendations that will prevent a further occurrence. And so because of that, nobody will be getting access to the mine for some time. He's even encouraging that based on the findings that this committee will bring, they may have to seal most of the pits that are around this area, because this is something that was unexpected. The water just went into a pit that was left uncovered, unknown to these miners who were very deep underground. They didn't detect it, so it was too late by the time they knew about it. So they are trying to make sure that any pits that are not being used are sealed in the future. And for those of them who are not licensed to operate, they will have to be stopped. These are some of the measures that the regional minister and the regional security council is looking at in the interim.
Albert, tell us about the families of these persons, especially those whose bodies have not been found yet. How are they taking the incident?
Yeah, so one of the things that you'll find around the mine is that the families, especially 3 days ago, and yes, 3 days ago when they were still pumping the water out of the tunnels to try and find the miners. At the time, the fear was that they won't be alive, but there were still some people who were hoping that somehow some of them would have managed to survive and try to find their way out. So you would find their families around, looking sad, some of them standing under trees, just waiting to see if there would be any news of their lost family members, being found. Now, at about 4:30 on Wednesday, when I was at the scene, they told us that they had finished pumping the water and they were going in to look for the bodies. If you see the picture on your screen now, this is when all the people around gathered near the mining pit in anticipation of, the bodies being found. And one of the leaders came to ask them to move back because, they had not yet found anybody and they didn't want people to stand around. For him, it was not even good for people to stand around when the bodies started arriving. And there were people who, showed signs of sadness. Some of the women I saw nearly even started weeping, even though they had not yet found the body. So a lot of them are sad. It's unfortunate that at the time they found the 9 bodies, it was at 3 a.m. Yesterday. And so we didn't get the chance to see how the families were reacting. And so one of the things the police did immediately was to have medical examinations on the bodies, some of which we learned were showing signs of decomposition. And so they had to release the bodies for the families to go and bury and hopefully perform funerals for these people.
Albert, sorry, thank you very much for joining us with these updates. A member of Parliament for Ketu South, Ablajifa Gomashi, is asking governments to immediately roll out measures to help residents in her constituency affected by recent tidal waves. Over 700 residents of Agabeji and other coastal communities in the Ketu South constituency have been displaced. The MP says the situation is dire and needs urgent government intervention.
President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the people of Ketu South and I need you to respond immediately, urgently, to the tidal wave that is causing so much destruction in our community. Your Excellency, in 10 meters or so, the electricity, the water, and the road will be cut off from the coastal communities. I dare say that if we address it now, we will be saving this country some cost because we won't have to do the road again. Already, the town roads are nothing to write home about. The only road that connects Aflau to Kata is about to be lost because the sea is ravaging. The sea is destroying everything in its path. I don't know if you have any more questions. Otherwise, I would go on to say that. Yes, please.
So you are asking government to come to your aid. What measures do you want to see being put in place as far as the situation is concerned? So let's talk about the interim measure and the long-term measure you want to see being put in place.
In the interim, I think that those who have lost about 20 plus houses we lost on Wednesday, the people who lived in those communities or in those homes must be taken care of. We have to find a place for them to live food for them to eat, clothes for them to wear, a roof over their heads. We cannot look on helplessly. And I think that this is beyond the MCE, the NADMO coordinator, and the regional minister. This has to be a cabinet decision to come and address the situation immediately.
Meanwhile, the Ministry of Works and Housing is assuring residents who live along the country's coast their concerns about the sea defense project being constructed by government will be addressed. One of the main complaints with the project, which seeks to halt the advancing sea, is that the livelihood of the fisherfolk along the coast is threatened. Sector Minister Francis Asenso-Boakye, who is touring the project sites in the central and western regions, explains all concerns of residents would be incorporated into the design. Richard Kojonyako has more.
The Works and Housing Minister was impressed at the rate of work of the contractor that is constructing the sea defense. The sea defense project was initiated following the devastating effects the sea was having on the shorelines of the country's coast. With about 60% of the project completed, Francis Asenso-Boakye believes government vision of protecting the shorelines was on course.
We apologize for the loss in audio there. We'll bring you that story later. Now, ahead of the 2021 Population and Housing Census program, authorities in the Bono East region are hopeful that the exercises would help guide the region's development plan. The region, which is one of the 6 new regions created in the year 2019, currently lacks accurate data. And according to the regional coordinating director, this is affecting the region's planning in terms of job creation and development. Correspondent Anna Sabit has more.
As one of 6 new regions created in the year 2019, authorities in the Bono East region are excited with the upcoming population and housing census. The region currently lacks adequate and accurate data to help guide the region's development plan. Regional Coordinating Director Mr. George Padmore Mensah told JoyNews that the region is fully committed to making sure that the exercise is executed successfully.
As a regional coordinating council, we are looking forward to get the data, adequate data, to help us in our planning. We were covered from the SY Bron Alpha region, and so getting the data for the Bro East region is very difficult. And this census is going to help us to get specific data for our region. So I want to say that the regional coordinating council, we are planning that we know that we have this number of unemployed persons, and then what strategies that we are going to mount to get them jobs. So it's very, very important. And as the RCC and the regional minister is fully committed that this program becomes a success.
He called on stakeholders present at the regional launch of the 30-day countdown to contribute towards sensitizing the populace in order to get them all counted.
We want them to also get involved and support us in the publicity, because the pastors and the imams, when they meet at the various platforms, churches and mosques, they should also solicit support from their people and also inform their people, especially with the census night. And they should all make sure that they are counted. And I also want to inform them that if there are any lapses, if somebody is not counted, he should come to the assembly and then report to us so that we'll let the supervisors go and do their job for us.
With the increasing number of armed robbery cases recorded in some parts of the region, Mr. Mensah assured that the Regional Security Council is providing enough security personnel to ensure that enumerators get through the exercise safely.
The Regional Security Council has already met on that, and then we have put into arrangement. We know the hotspot areas, especially with the census night, the enumerators that will be going to count people. We are making arrangement. We've talked to the 3BN Sunyani. We have a platoon here, military platoon. We have the Regional Police Command and all the security agencies. We are arranging for adequate security, and we'll ensure that we're going to have a peaceful and a safe program.
The Chiman District Census Officer and Second in Command at the Regional Census Office, Mr. Alex Nkunyanyate, called on the people to cooperate with census officials in order to get reliable data capable of aiding development within the area.
for the population in Bono East region. Let's cooperate with census officials. When they come to your homes, allow them entry. Answer the questions they ask so that we can get reliable baseline data for this region. You know, it's a new region. So we need to get data that will be accurate and reliable. Then moving forward, we can build on it for the region to get part of the national cake that it also deserves.
He asked that measures are being taken to ensure that people living in hard-to-reach communities get counted.
We have some localities that are on the water body. We call them islands. They are difficult, they you know, to the ordinary man, yes, but there are structures in place to make sure that everybody on that water body has been enumerated.
Reporting for Joy News, Anas Sabit, Tichiman.
Now, 19 schools will be battling for the Eastern Region trophy of the Absa Bank Science and Maths Quiz Championship. The championships in Greater Accra, Central, Western and Volta OT regions have already been decided, with Pesek Legon and Fanspim School, Archbishop Potter Girls and Ketasco winning respectively. Which school will rule the Eastern Region? Maxwell Akbakba has been speaking to Samuel Ajo of Primetime Limited after the draw for the championship.
We've ended the regional qualifiers here in the Eastern Region. The next is the Eastern Regional Championship, the Eastern Regional Absa Science and Maths Quiz Championship. That'll be happening here in some hours. We're privileged to have with us Samuel Ajo. He's with Primetime Limited, organizers of the National Science and Maths Quiz. He's going to give us details of the championship and what to expect. The draw ended some minutes ago. Mr. Ajo, you're welcome to join us.
So the regional championship, and which is sponsored by Absa Bank, it's a competition where we bring in the qualifiers from the various regions, who meet the seeded schools from the previous year's edition in a competition to determine the regional champion. So, for instance, as we have completed the Eastern Regional qualifiers, we're now moving into the Absa Bank Regional Championship, where we have the 14 qualified schools from the Eastern Region joining the 5 seeded schools from last year together. So we have 19 schools who are coming together in a competition to determine the Absa Bank Regional champions for the Eastern Region.
Okay. So we're looking for the champions when it comes to science and maths in the Absa Bank Regional Championship.
Exactly.
And that will be happening on Friday.
Yes.
Here. So you have the parents with you. Can you quickly run us through the contests for Friday?
So Friday we'll have the first stage of contest. That's 5 contests on Friday, and on Saturday we'll have the 2 semi-final contests, then the final contest. But on Friday, the parents that we have in the first contest, we have St. Peter's SHS meeting Iboka State College, and Okwapman Senior High School, and then WBM Zion SHS. They are the ones who are going for the first contest on Friday. The second contest, we have Pope John Senior High School and Minor Seminary, meeting Odan SHS, Sum Presby SHS, and then Boso SHTS. Okay. In the third contest, we'll have Kofrida Sectec, Nkwetia Presby SHS, Praiso SHS, and then Xavier SHS. Okay. In the fourth contest, we'll have Osino Presby SHS, we have Ghana Senior High School Kofrida, Nifan SHS, and then we have Ebri Girls SHS. Okay. And then the last contest, that's in the fifth contest, that will be the last contest at the first stage. We'll have Ebri Girls SHS, Ebri Presby SHTS, okay. We have Krobo Girls SHS, and then Oforopeni SHS. So these are the pairings for the first stage of competition at the regional championship.
And the contest promised to be very competitive.
It is going to be very exciting. At least we have seen the performance exhibited by some of the qualifiers, those who qualified. School like Praiso, SHS, they were very, very impressive. I mean, for me, proud to the qualifiers. I heard a lot about them, and indeed, they proved that they have the Africanity in them, and which they exhibited to win their contest massively. So I expect such an exciting contest, especially when they are going to meet Kofrida Sectec, who I know are in the elements, and then Xavier SHS, who did well. It's going to be a very exciting contest, especially in the third contest at the championship.
And then there's Pope John.
Pope John will meet Odan SHS, Simon Presby SHS, and Boso SHS. I want to believe that Pope John I haven't seen them, but I want to believe that coming from where I know them to where I know them to be coming from, I expect that they should be able to win this contest. But for me, this year's qualifiers and the championship has proven people wrong in terms of having so-called smaller schools after beating or giving the so-called big schools a run for their money. So anything can happen. I mean, I'll just say anything can happen. St. Peter's will meet Boca State College, Kwapman Senior High School, and then WBM Zion. In this contest too, I want to safely say that St. Peter's could win, but one can never tell. True. In the other contests, which I believe also is going to be very exciting, would be Osuna Presby SHTS, and then Ghana Senior High School Koforidua, and then of course Nifa SHTS, and then Ebri Girls. Ebri Girls were quite impressive. With what I witnessed, and so I'll be glad to see them rubbing shoulders with the guys here and making a mark in the championship.
Interesting.
All the best once again to all competing teams in the Eastern region, and of course, when the finals come to the national stage in October. Let's move on to Tech Talk now on News Desk. Our resident IT consultant, Kobe Spike Nkrumah, is with us. And Spike, will start off with Huawei. What's happening there?
So, when Donald Trump was president, he implemented this trade ban that prevented Huawei from receiving Google software and basically doing business with tech companies in the US. Now, this impacted Huawei in a very negative way, in the sense that people couldn't get the basic functionality called Play Store. You couldn't have access to Play Store on any Huawei device. And this caused Huawei to have to really start to think fast. What are we going to do? We need to have our own store now so people can download their apps. People can still use the smartphones because they're making great devices. But then with that little bottleneck, it started to steer people away from their devices. And now Huawei's decided that, hey, we're going to create our own OS. We're going to call it the Harmony OS. And it's going to run on every device. It's going to run on smartphones, it's going to run on smartwatches, it's going to run on TVs, Internet of Things. And that's actually a very good move, because that means that they're now independent of, all these American businesses that they were relying on for these services to provide a user experience that the users in other countries
are used to.
Yes. And well, they're saying by the 24th of this month, we should be seeing it. But it's going to roll out to users in Asia, where they are mother continent, where it would. They
have a lot more support there, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, in China, for instance, they don't have access to the Western, platforms like Google and Facebook and all that. So they're actually used to not having it. It's us on this part of the world that actually are still used to Gmail, YouTube, Google. I mean, what's a smartphone without a Play Store?
Yeah.
But if they can create an alternative, which they're working on, then yes, everybody will be able to get them.
The way technology works, Spikey, it's very difficult to count things out. But in the same way, I'm thinking of, OSs like Symbian from Nokia, or OSs like the RIM on BlackBerry, and how they failed woefully.
Miserably. The advantage here with the Harmony OS is that it can still run Android apps. Because at the core, it's got Android there. Now, it's said that it's going to be more efficient in many ways than the Android that we're used to. So I'm really, really excited and hoping to try it as soon as it's ready. And trust me, if it does prove to be more efficient than Android, I wouldn't mind switching, personally.
I'll tell you what I think Huawei and Tecno have as an advantage before we move on. I think that they've always been a cost-effective alternative to Android and iPhone. And so if they're able to keep that, maybe people will get used to the thing, but I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking about my Android and thinking if I can change. But then again, so what's happening with United Airlines?
So you remember the supersonic jets, the Concorde?
Yes, they're very fast ones.
Very fast ones. So they're coming back. United Airlines wants to bring them back. They've actually placed an order for 15 planes that are capable of traveling at twice the speed of our normal airplanes. So your usual flights that would take you about 8 hours, it's now going to be about 4 or 3.5 hours, or 3.5 hours to make that flight.
That's really fast.
It's moving at Mach 1.7. That's 1,300 miles per hour.
That's 1.7 times the speed of sound.
Yeah.
That's what Mach 1.7 means.
Yeah.
It's faster than sound.
That's why it's called the boom, because you're going to hear that sonic boom.
Amazing. Look, what this tells me, if United is buying airplanes, is that travel is coming back.
Yep.
The world is beginning to look more normal again after this entire COVID-19, what have you, because the airline industry was the hardest hit.
Exactly.
But Apple is also reacting, right, to this whole comeback.
Yeah, Apple says that, hey, employees, we want you back in the office by September.
In the office?
In the office, yes.
I'm surprised.
And that, exactly. I was also surprised when I saw this. Because it's a tech company. Most tech companies, Twitter, Facebook, Google are now experimenting with more remote work because they've realized that it's more efficient for them. It saves on power, saves on space. Imagine if multimedia did remote work. A lot of our offices would be empty. We wouldn't be paying electricity or water bills for those offices.
Yeah.
That'd be saving the business a lot of money. And so, but Apple says, hey, we want you back in the office. I think I sort of understand. Some of Apple's employees actually have to work in person. Imagine if you're an engineer, you can't be doing everything remote. You know, you need to be there to make sure that the die, the chipsets and everything are in place. But they're starting
especially if you're in a team and like you're working on different components of it.
Exactly. And so they're going to be working like starting off with 3 days a week. And they're saying that some would have to work all 4 or 5 days. And if you are entitled to 2 weeks remote work, if your manager approves, then you can work a year. You can work 2 weeks remotely.
In a year?
In a year.
That's apart from days off?
That's not. That's apart from your leave.
Okay.
Or your holiday. So yeah.
Do you think this will start a trend with a lot of companies, you know, calling back their employees?
Apple is a trendsetter in almost everything. So Apple doing this, I'm sure somebody will be like, even Apple is calling their people back to work. Who are you to say that I want to stay at home?
I can think of a few managers here who say that. But cybersecurity, I want to imagine that cybersecurity is one of the reasons why remote work may not be so popular, because everything happens on the internet and so you're susceptible to be scammed or to be hacked.
You heard about the Colonial Pipeline issue where some hackers put a ransomware on it. We discussed it on the show. Exactly. There's a lot of corporate agencies being targeted. The SolarWinds attack was, struck again. And so it's opened up the request for more cybersecurity specialists. They've realized that that position has not been filled in most companies. So now cybersecurity jobs are going to be in high demand. Like cybersecurity specialists are going to be in high demand. So if you're listening and you're a cybersecurity guy, I'd advise you to, start improving your CV, adding stuff, because they're going to be the next most wanted people in the tech world.
I saw that coming. I must say, I saw that coming. Not very long ago, but I've spoken to a few experts in the field, like our good friend Joseph Quay, who increasingly the world needs to be safer.
Definitely.
In the cyberspace.
A lot of hacking and ransomware going out here and there, and we're not prepared. We're not very prepared.
Now to my favorite part of what we're discussing, the $100,000 chicken
nuggets. So, have you ever played a game Among Us?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Oh, it's a very interesting game. So I'll just give you a brief of how the game is. And if you're looking on the screen right now, you're seeing a chicken nugget with 2 legs, things that look like legs, and then just the whole body. And that's how the Among Us characters look. They just like a whole body and then legs, no arms, anything. And in the game, you are all you go into a flight, a spaceship, and then you all have to be doing tasks. And one person is a suspect. Now you don't know who the suspect is, and that person goes around killing all the other characters in the game. So
you have to figure out who it is.
You have to figure out who it is. They call a meeting and like, you sus. And then everybody goes like, then they vote. This person is a suspect, and they kick you off the spaceship. Now, if you're not a suspect, that means that the sus is still on the. So they keep going on until the sus wins or the teammates win.
But how did the chicken become $99,997?
Nobody knows how it became like this, but I think someone who's very, very in love with
with the game
Among Us just thought that, hey, I'd like to buy it, and then paid about $99,997. The first bid was about $14,000, and it just escalated, just went skyrocketed from there. So my question was, when I saw it, so is the person not going to eat it?
That's the point.
Like, I'm looking at it right now and I'm already drooling. Like,
that's the point.
Eat it. Why would I pay $100,000?
I'm going to make a spiky shaped nugget.
and then sell it.
I wonder how much we'll get for that.
We'll get plenty money, yeah.
Thank you very much, Komis. Thank you for joining us. All right, then. You're live on News Desk. Stay with us. There's a lot more coming up.
Hi, good morning. Welcome to Business. My name is Darrell Kwao. Government is being able to collaborate with rural and community banks for successful implementation of the new development bank Ghana. According to board chairman of the ARB Apex Bank, which is the mini central bank for rural and community banks, Dr. Tony Obeng, the banks already focus on development banking, as a result are well positioned. He spoke at the 40th anniversary lecture of the Amenfiman Rural Bank in Takwa. Prince Apia has more.
Government this month signed a €170 million agreement with the European Investment Bank to establish the Development Bank Ghana. The non-deposit taking bank will provide funds to qualifying financial institutions to provide long-term lending in addition to other services. Board chair of ARB Apex Bank, Dr. Tony Obeng, says rural and community bank must be considered for partnership in implementation.
Inception of the development bank, which the government just announced, I think there should be a major link between the development bank that the government has conceived with the rural banks, because that is where development is actually done. So development banks must not be in Accra alone or in Kumasi or in the big places, but even if they are there, they should have a strong link with the rural banks and through Apex Bank. Then the rural banks could be the kind of the fulcrum. It's very central. We are too much used to doing things with the big boys. I think it is time for us to look at the banks that are closer to the people, because we know how to deal with them, because we are closer to them. So I think we need to try and harness these opportunities that the rural banks do have because of their location and of their specialized knowledge of those localities. So I think the development bank that is coming would do well to actually look at collaborating effectively with some of the rural, in fact, with the rural banks. I won't say even some, but with the rural banks.
He spoke at the Amenfiman Rural Bank anniversary lecture under the theme Championing Excellence in Rural Banking to commemorate 40 years of impact by the bank. Mr. Kojo Mata is MD for the ARB Apex Bank.
Even as corporate governance directives have come, we are helping the RCBs to comply. So compliance support is at two levels, from Bank of Ghana point and from ARB Apex Bank. So the rural banks are well regulated.
CEO Dr. Alex Asma says the next phase of the bank will focus on partnerships with the
Our special focus has been on the micro, small and medium enterprises, because to us that is the base of the country's economy that needs most attention, and so that's where our focus has been and continue to be. So we will continue to support individual businesses, we continue to support entrepreneurs to develop their businesses. At 40, we think that there's more that is expected of us, there's more that we can do. Our vision is that we consolidate the gains that we have made over the past years and solidifying ourselves in the industry as the leaders and continue to inspire and to lead excellence in our industry.
The bank has therefore committed 8% of its profits to establish a university in Wase Kopon. A special fund has also been set up to support technical and vocational training. Prince Apia reporting.
Now, former Minister of Energy Emmanuel Amakofi-Boa insists the country's oil sector is dying as a result of government's mismanagement of the economy. He says the country has not developed any new oil drilling wells over the last 4 years and insists ExxonMobil's decision to exit the country is because of government's poor management of the sector.
Production we see will dry up and the industry will basically collapse. That's why I brought you this morning.
You asked a few questions.
I said, it is very possible that the general atmosphere here is not, they are not enthused about it. It is also true that you have to do a lot to attract people like Ezomoba. And it means that we and the government, and I point to the government not because it's a political, but it is this government who is responsible for driving this. What exactly is government done? And I know that if you bring Ake and you give them all the concessions I've described, what is the point?
And there's more business news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. You can read more about the new national daily minimum wage, which labor experts believe will influence fresh service conditions. My name is Darryl Kwao. Sports is coming up next.
And for the latest in sports, George Adu Jr. is with us in studio. How's it feeling, George?
Yeah, it's great. I think we are getting close to it. We love it. It's a good weekend. And I think for Chelsea fans across the country, we're looking forward to celebrating the 1 week.
No.
The 1 week of Chelsea's triumph.
We only celebrate 1 week of funerals.
No, this is 1 week of Chelsea fans. And we're going to be paying close attention to it. You know, the goal was scored in the 42nd minute last Saturday. So at 7:42, there will be a minute of noise, not silence, as you know. but we got fantastic
great weekend, yeah, for the Ghana Premier League.
Let's start with the Ghanaian, or the Ghana stuff, the Ghana Premier League. Now, now we have a very fast-developing, title race between Accra Heartsburg and Kumasi Asante Kotoko.
It's still 2 points.
It's still 2 points. Yeah. And that's why these games are very special. So Accra Heartsburg lead Kumasi Asante Kotoko with the 2 points. 49, they've got 49, Kotoko with 47. Now look at the derbies here. The Ashanti derby is Asante Kotoko versus Ashanti Gold.
Okay.
That's going to be a tight game played at the Clay Stadium. You've got the one, you want to call it a bit of a derby because they all play in Teshiman these days, but Precum Chelsea playing against King Faisal, not necessarily a derby there. Dreams FC against Elwina Sharks, not a derby. Ebuswan Dwarfs against the Gianna Stars, not a derby. Now Great Olympics versus Accra Heartsburg is a Manchester derby.
That is...
And Accra Heartsburg will be hoping that they can win and consolidate their spots at the top of the Ghana Premier League. The first leg, Great Olympics beat Accra Heartsburg by 2-0. They don't have Glasgow Wako and one of the Abbeys. So perhaps a weaker side. There's a little derby between Liberty Professionals and Wafa, the Sogakope derby, because they're all playing Sogakope at the moment for this season. Then you have 11 Wonders and Bichim United. That is a derby in its own right. I think we also have Karela United and Midiama SC is also special. And then they call this one the Accra New Boys derby. Accra New Boys, Legon City.
Legon Cities and Inter Allies.
But let me tell you about the other things just to note. That in tennis, we've lost the world #1 for the female draw. Ashley Barty was injured in her game. And so it throws it up. Already, the women's draw is always unpredictable. It's become even more unpredictable. There's no #2 as well, Naomi Osaka, with all the shenanigans. She's not going to speak to the media, and then she withdrew. That's one to put there. But tell me, how disappointed are you that the Lakers in the NBA playoffs have been knocked out by the Phoenix Suns?
I have no love. There's no love lost for the Lakers on my side. I respect LeBron. I love him as an artist, but I'm a Steph Curry fan. And so when he beats Golden State Warriors in that playoff, I kissed them in the back of my head.
This one reminds me of Chelsea when Chelsea won the 2012 Champions League and were knocked out in the group stage. The defending champion of the NBA has been knocked out by the Phoenix Suns in the first round.
The first round of the playoffs.
So it's interesting. So we look forward to all of these things to come. But remember, we are building up to the Euros. We are 7 days to the Euros, and it's heavy here. Of course, we'll be giving you all the other updates. But for your live games, you watch them on the Joy Prime channel in English and in Chi Adum TV. We're everywhere on radio, digital platforms. We are climbing and getting there. Everything.
Too exciting. It's way too exciting. Thank you very much, George.
So you're invited to our 1 week celebration.
Look, 1 week. I only go for 1 week funeral celebration. So thanks for joining us, all of you. Don't mind George and his Chelsea stuff.
Liverpool fans will join.
At midday, I'll be back with JoyNews today. George will be nowhere to be found. I mean, Mapito Sibidi is next with JoyNews Interactive, the weekend edition. See you at midday.